technically in a formal talk, we're supposed to introduce the speaker. But I don't know that much about you other than you were raised in Louisiana. You've been a monk for years and you've sat so many kilches. Kilche is the 90-day or 100-day retreat. How many of you kilches have you said? Do you know?
No, but more
40?
More than 40.
Yeah. So Wonil Sunim is now living at the Providence Zen Center in Rhode Island and helping them out with their practice. And I think you'll be sitting kilche again this year, so I'll be sitting with you for some of that time. So anyway, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Actually, I'm visiting with Ting. I don't know if you know Ting. She's with the Kansas Zen Center. And she's our friend, too. She comes to Providence most of the year. Can you hear me okay? You're cupping your ear back. I'll try to speak up. So she's sponsoring us right now. I'm down with Daekwang. Daekwang Sunim is one of the Zen masters in our school. He's been at Providence Zen Center for a long time, but he's from Kansas, from Nebraska. So he's from this area. And he's getting older now. So he had a few strokes, and we wanted to get him over here while he's still able to travel to see all of his people, So that's what we're doing now. And by chance, I saw Rebecca. She came up for dinner, and so she invited me over here. I wanted to come anyway, because me and Rebecca are pretty good friends just from, retreat is really wonderful. I don't know if you've done a longer retreat, but when you sit with people, you get really close. It's like family, really fast. It's an amazing process to go through. There's all kind of things that happen when you just give your life to, a retreat like that. Always. I even this summer, we only sit for 1 month in the summer. But still, that's a lot of time. And some really wonderful things came up. I remember I was looking at some scenes from my life, which you do. You kind of recapitulate things. Mm-hmm. And I realized when I was really young, I used to go out to this old railroad trestle where there was a train track that used to run through the land. And it had been, I can't even remember seeing a train there. It was so old. But the tracks were removed, and so it was just this creek and then two cliffs, on both sides. And I used to go there and just be mesmerized by the beauty of that, because Louisiana's a lot of flat land and deep forest. We don't see those kind of beautiful structures, and for a kid, it was heaven, But I remember being there and by myself and just studying different aspects of it and being in some kind of blissful state, right? That just occurred to me on this retreat, I'm almost 60 years old, so like 50 years later or something.
Wow.
And I realized, there's no continuity. You don't understand, I think, until you get older and you start doing meditation often and you start to see back all of the times where you had a deep kind of a meditation experience, And that was one of the early ones in my life where I was in a meditative state, just from being in an environment. And that's what I tell people a lot now that don't have experience with meditation. I say, well, you have, if you go for a walk on the beach by yourself, it's really good to be by yourself in nature. That's when you really, you kind of find something, some deep experience where you're not being distracted by anything and you're just absorbed. That's really the thing. You're absorbed in that time, that experience, a beautiful sunset, something like that. Everyone has those experiences. And, I think the tragedy is that we're so busy in our lives that we don't develop those things or don't treasure them or have them throughout our lives. And this is one of the things that we do. I think we learned that you can contact those things all the time. You can always reside in that space if it's important to you. If you do a lot of practice, eventually your mind opens to that space and it's always there. You don't have to go into some natural, phenomenon in order to be stimulated, to find that part of yourself that's in a deep peace and in that sense of wonder. I don't know what it is. It's really amazing the thing that animates us, when you experience it. It's the most compelling thing I think there is in this world. And that's sort of what we do. And a long retreat is you're continually working on that boundary, opening to that and making that the point, just giving your whole life to it. It's kind of like if you want to study language. Like I tried to learn Korean when I was in Korea at the age of 50, and I never studied a language before, so I didn't do very well. I really tried, but I just don't have that ability in my mind. It's just not there. I guess I could keep plugging away and slowly learn, and I did learn. I learned a lot, but that's just not my karma. I didn't make that path in this life. So I don't want to waste years and years studying at the university trying to learn this language. I came back to the U.S. Actually, the Zen master said, maybe go back to you're more useful over there. But it's the same, for meditation. It's really important to keep that spiritual life with you, to plunge the depths now and then. It's so wonderful to have that. So during this retreat, I looked at that, and it was so comforting to have that. It's almost like a metaphor of meditation. And it reminded me, I wrote something, I wanted to read this real quick. So I think, Rebecca, you probably heard this before. But where I grew up, there were a lot of fields, kind of like here, but they're more abandoned, a lot more abandoned fields because they're just left to fallow, or I don't know what it is about farmers and fields in Louisiana, but there are a lot of fields that aren't being used. There's cattle, wild cattle out there. I think it's from the logging industry that would go through and cut down all the trees and they would just be left clear cut, things like that. So I grew up in that kind of terrain. And there in Louisiana, really, you have to be out in the sun, out in the fields, because the forest, it's just filled with mosquitoes and snakes and stuff. So that's where I spent a lot of my time. And the fields also became a kind of metaphor for that inexpressible state, that you encounter in nature. Like that was really where I spent most of my time, especially the summers when I was a kid. And if you're in a field, but there's nothing there but you and the field, and there's no other people around. I didn't have friends. I was too far out in the country. Then that becomes your friend, that field, that experience of nature. And you, over time, you know everything about all the things growing, where they are, the birds, everything about it. So it's teaching you. You realize after a while that everything has a purpose and a reason. I mean, things that are left to go wild. Not things that are made by man that have rows and order, but just chaos, there's a natural order there that's just dazzling, and it's like you're witnessing life and the way that it interacts with each other. So that also was a powerful experience. And I wrote about this. I always tried to explain it somehow. And this was my attempt to make it into, some kind of a mini story. The archetype of the field of weeds. I've always been attracted to abandoned fields, where the natural force is won against someone's idea. No more clean lines and monotonous order. Instead, a swirling chaos of weeds and flowers, so beautifully arranged. A stand of trees, all the intersecting branches moving in the wind, the scattered light. There's some meaning beyond the simple fact that it exists. It conveys something of its origin, the one. It became alive in me. I first noticed when I went to do the morning bell chant at Musang solo. I'm not a vocalist. I don't have any natural ability with the voice. I could do it, but not clearly. Out of desperation, I recalled the sunlight through the trees, and I found my voice. It took a few years for me to understand this. My voice became the same as the sunlight through the trees. When I chanted from that place, it conveyed the same information. Then it slowly began to dawn on me that I should live this way. So I call that the field of weeds. See? And there's teaching in your life, all through your life like that. And to really get that, you don't have to, but a long retreat is a wonderful tool. This recapitulation, you get the wisdom from your life, from the fabric of your life. It's like the teaching that, the sixth patriarch, have you heard about him? He got enlightenment. He was just gathering wood in the forest. He got enlightenment when he heard a monk chanting the line, "Let your mind go anywhere with no hindrance." The same teaching, right? You want things to appear exactly as they are, cleanly. What is this, Not with your hands in it, manipulating, making something out of it, but just as they are. The mind the same way. You don't want to control it and continually try to, become neurotic, trying to manipulate people, whatever. Just be yourself. Just express exactly as it is, exactly as you react to your environment, right? That's enlightenment already. Just being what you are, being a human being. And that's what people want from you too. Then you're a beacon of light to people's lives. And they know you, they trust you, they know what you are, your being. Because you're just expressing yourself naturally. Anyway, that's my feeling about encountering the one. That's what it's like. It's just wild nature. And it's always perfect and complete. It doesn't need any augmentation or manipulation. You don't need to be present. In fact, what you want to do, and what we work on retreat, is you want to put down the self. Let go of the self. That's what's making all of this complicated. Or it's the farmer's rose, you're looking at cultivated things, not the real nature. So that's the process. And if you look at the structure of Buddhism, it's kind of made like that. When the Buddha started to teach, we call it the Theravada, or Hinayana, the small vehicle. When he first began to teach people, he had that kind of mechanical thing where there's structure, these rules you have to follow, you have to do this and this. And that's a whole body of teaching that he worked with first to teach us, right? But later on, when people started to get, align, I guess, with the teaching, to, I don't want to say purify, but become more and more solid and centered, then he said, and more or less, he said, this is all bullshit. But I had to teach this way because you weren't ready, right? But the real teaching is there is no good and bad. Everything is included in the pure and clear Dhamma. Right? The same thing. Just be what you are. Express that. Trust that. Of course, it's always good. It's like the mother taking care of her children. She always will love those children. It doesn't matter. You can't doubt that mother's love. It's always there. That's what it's like that. Life is always positive. So anyway, that's this Mahayana teaching that we are a branch of. When the Buddha started teaching that way, it kind of bifurcated our different lineages, and now we have this school that's just holding the precepts, just being, very careful about what they eat and how they move in the world, which is fine. I mean, that can be a whole teaching. But that's not the way that we are, right? But we get caught up in that. Even this wonderful Zen teaching we still get caught up in the forms, and we have these special robes, and we have to learn the chants, and there's so much, and we get caught in that too. So we have to be careful about that. Don't get stuck in the forms. That's not what we're doing. And I get that too a lot because I'm like the head Dharma teacher at the Zen Center and the Kyolches, and so I'm supposed to hold the line, but I'm not interested in that. I'm absolutely not interested. What I want is for everyone to be their self and to have a deep experience. And it's like we're all doing our own retreat, right? And I'm there to support your retreat. If you're too tired, go take a rest. Don't worry about it. It's take care of yourself and don't wear yourself out. Just have some respect for all this wonderful entity you created. Spend some time with it. Get to know it. Nourish that. One thing I saw, last winter I saw, it was astounding to me, and maybe it doesn't really make sense. It's not really a big deal. But You know how you dream at night? It's like you're working on things that happen during the day or in your life. Stress, you have to kind of work out scenarios that you're afraid something's going to happen. Stress, it's like your mind's kind of putting things in order or preparing you for something, right? You're doing that continually when you dream. Well, I realized one morning, and we wake up at 4:30 for retreat, so I was sitting there and I was still in the dream state, kind of. And you can tell because everything's like a non sequitur. It's just things are happening weird, and you don't really have control of your mind. And I was just sort of letting it go and not really caring either, just in that kind of half sleep. And I realized, we do this all day long. I never thought about it that way before. Your mind is continually, there's so much also in the background that's going on in your mind. You're only aware of what's in the front. It parses the information that you're fed, right? But it's continually weaving together things and making this fabric of reality that we all have. That's a normal process of the mind. And you notice when people get older, they start to lose touch with it, then they fade away, right? It's important to that's there. And we kind of fight against it, and we shouldn't, That's our self. It's completely natural. So all this thinking that we're doing is this is us as living beings. That's what it means to be a human. You're supposed to do that. Be careful of that too. Don't fight against what you are, Allow that to be there. Meditation it's like that. I mean, that's all going on. That's on the surface. There's always this whatever it is, this knitting together the fabric of your reality. That's always there. Meditation is like right away when you sit. Even the first time, you notice that there's all of this going on, but you're also aware of it, right? You also have a mind that can observe that it's thinking and having an emotion. That's meditation. Like I'm having an emotion, right? You already have power, right? You've already developed a center. I'm thinking right now. This is important to me. This is something going on, right? That's meditation. You more and more rely on that. You reside in that. Then that becomes your self. You work from that point. And then all of this stuff going on, that's your creation. That's like your child. You love and nourish and take care. And it's a whole process, of learning to care for this thing. And, then that light enters, all of your relations. So it's a very large thing. It takes some time. So what happened to me, I was practicing at Providence Zen Center for maybe 6 years with Wonil Sunim. He was the abbot at that time. And eventually I just got jostled out of there by the forces of nature, and I had to go, which often happens. It's kind of hard. Residential training, and just being with a lot of strong personalities. And at that time, Seung was around, so there was a lot of people. And I ended up on the West Coast, and we were building a monastery in the Mojave Desert. It's called Tegosa, or Mountain Spirit Center. Really wonderful. I love that space. And that's really where I finally learned how to meditate deeply in the desert. That helped me a lot, that environment. But out there, we could only take a shower every 2 weeks. It was bad. And so we would just shave our heads, so we could keep cleaner. And we used hand wipes to wipe down sometimes. It just worked all the time. And we were pretty dirt poor. But it was wonderful. I spent a year out there. And we would go to Los Angeles, which is 2 hours away, to take a shower at the Zen Center. And Seung would be there sometimes. He was getting medical treatment in LA. And there, unlike Providence, he would just be sitting in the living room, just sitting around. You could go talk to him. It's amazing. And in Providence, there's always people around him. And you have to make an appointment, and probably you won't even get to see him when he travels through. But there, he was just there all the time. So we came bustling in one time from work, and he was sitting on the couch, and he looked at me and goes, "You become a monk." Like that. And I don't know, maybe I was 35, something. I was pretty young, and never had thought in my life about being a monk. Really had no intention of doing it. But it's something when a Zen master tells you to do it. And at the time I couldn't answer him. I said, let me think about it overnight. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And what happened was I went out to Venice Beach, and there was a drum circle out there, and I was watching all those guys, and it just made me depressed somehow. It just didn't feel like there was any depth to their spiritual practice, whatever was going on. I just felt like, no, I don't want to lose my, all this momentum. So I told him, yeah, I'll do it. I'll go become a monk. And I went to Korea, and I trained for a couple of years. It was really hard. I had no idea what I was getting into. And I had culture shock, and the whole experience just changed my life in a good way, but it was really hard. And my father started to have problems. He was diabetic and lost both of his legs and went blind, and they needed help, to pay his insurance. And I got called back, and I started working as a carpenter in LA just to try to get through all of that. And Sahn didn't want me to. He said, you can't work. So I quit. And I started working. And that was the last time I talked to him. And about 6 years later, he died. It was 2004. And there was a big fire in the desert. So I went out there to help them to clean up. We didn't lose any buildings, anything important, but lost a lot of trees. And the abbot who built that place from an inheritance, he was so distraught that he left. And that was the first time that we had the place a fully functioning temple and we could do a retreat. That was the first time the work stopped. But I was not in a good state. I had a terrible knee injury before, and I was just not in a good mental space. I had a hard time. And so didn't really have a reason to be there, but to do the retreat, but I didn't know what else to do. So I remember sitting down and looking at the floor, and I'd already done maybe 10 or 12 kilches by then. I had a lot of practice experience, but I couldn't remember any of the forms. Right? And that's what happened. I entered as a complete wild, untamed weed. And I sat there just, what am I doing here, And my mind, I just knew what to do. And so I just kind of focused and then let go. Focused and let go. I had a kind of rhythm to it, which I don't know where I got that idea. But suddenly it just went so deep, so bright, suddenly my mind just opened up. So from that point, I started doing long retreats every chance I got. I did 300-day solo retreats. I went to Korea and did retreats. I just went crazy. It was so beautiful. So eventually I ended up being a monk. That's what happened to me. It was really beautiful though, that process. And you never know what's going to happen, You don't know what timetable you have. You have to just make that space in your life and keep working on it. So now I'm back at Providence where I started, and things have changed a lot. Now since Sansim's not there, so it's a lot less people around. It's very, very peaceful and quiet, and Ting loves it there. A lot of people make pilgrimages there every year because it's we have a nice monastery and do long retreats there. So I have the best life, the best life. I love doing those long retreats. And, there it's mandatory. We have it twice a year. So you're welcome to go. But, that's a lot to ask for busy people. I don't know how you manage. How can you do a long retreat? I think they're going to start having at Kansas Zen Center maybe 5 or 7 day retreats. Dennis is there now, Dennis Durmeyer. He's a great teacher. So maybe you could do that. Or just do a solo retreat sometime. Maybe talk to Rebecca before you do that. Help you to do a schedule. But, just make some kind of steady beat in your life, some way to keep that spiritual self going, just some kind of momentum, and that's right for you. And trust that you know what to do. Your nature knows what it's doing. Just start to listen to it. That's my advice. And listen to Rebecca too. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't want to leave you out. Okay, I have one more short quote. This is from Taoyi. He was a great Chinese Zen master underneath Rinzai. So we're in the Rinzai lineage basically because we do Kongan practice, and the Japanese have the Soto and the Rinzai, and we're from the Rinzai side. But we're Korean Buddhism, which is a different lineage really. It's the Hwadu practice. I only keep a question, like what am I, what is this? So it's a little more refined. It came later. And this is Taoyi. He's like 6 or 8 generations down from Rinzai. And he was amazing. So he's a real big figure in Korean Buddhism. Maybe you don't hear about him much in our lineage, but when I was sitting retreats, when I first started at Providence, the book is called Swampland Flowers. If you haven't read it, it's Zen Master Taoyi. That's the only book Zen Master Seung would allow on retreats, other than his own. Because it's exactly the same. It's that lineage. You can tell he was amazing. But he, like all teachers, it comes down to just letting go of the self, basically. And this is what his really direct teaching about that. It's about Joju's. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Okay? So a monk asked Joju, does a dog have Buddha nature or not? Joju said, no. This one word, no, is a knife to sunder the doubting mind of birth and death. The handle of this knife is in one's own hand alone. You can't have anyone else wield it for you. To succeed, you must take hold of it yourself. You consent to take hold of it yourself only if you can abandon your life. If you cannot abandon your life, just keep to where your doubt remains unbroken for a while. Suddenly, you'll consent to abandon your life, and then you'll be done. I love Taoyi. Great. Yeah. He also said it's like practice is like entering a furnace. It is hard, It's like entering to a furnace. And he was talking to some student, and he said, and this has been passed down from teacher to teacher down a long lineage. But if you can find a better way, please tell me about it. Unfortunately, it is pretty hard.
Wonil, we're out of time.
Oh, I'm done.
Are there any last questions for?
I'm sorry if I talked too long.
You didn't talk too long.
No, not at all.
Probably could listen to you longer.
I did. Usually we have a clock here, so we don't go over.
We hit the
I have
clock
no
on
idea.
the mic.
Any question? Well, that's good.
Have
If you,
any questions? No? Okay. Well, you said it all then.
thank you. It's good to be with you
Thank
today.
you.
Practice together. Good to see you again.
Thank
It
you
was
for
good
your
to see you
teaching,
again.
Wonil Sunim. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm glad we could stop by.